The Grand Medical Hall of the Galactic Core buzzed with activity as hundreds of different species gathered for the 457th Annual Medical Conference. Floating orbs of light illuminated the vast chamber, casting a soft glow on the diverse collection of beings. Dr. Blue, with his shimmering crystalline body, stood at the center of the main stage, presenting his groundbreaking research on cellular regeneration across species. Just as he reached the crucial point of his presentation, every screen in the chamber flickered. The lights dimmed, and a new signal cut through all communication channels. First contact was happening, and it was interrupting the biggest medical conference in the galaxy. The beings on the screens looked strange. No extra limbs, no crystalline structures, no energy forms. Just simple bipedal creatures calling themselves humans. Dr. Blue, like everyone else in the chamber, stared in fascination. As the leading expert in comparative biology, he received an immediate appointment to study these newcomers. 3 days later, he stood in his laboratory, examining the first detailed scans of human biology. His assistant, a gas-based being named Mist, hovered nervously nearby as multiple errors flashed across their screens. This can't be right. Dr. Blue's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Run the tests again. They had run the tests 15 times already. Each time, the results came back the same. These humans were impossible. Their biology defied every standard the galaxy had established for intelligent life. Doctor. Mist swirled anxiously. The human representative is here for the initial examination. The human walked in. A male specimen who called himself Tim. He looked around the lab with obvious curiosity, seemingly unaware that his very existence challenged everything Dr. Blue had studied for 3 centuries. Your skeletal structure, Dr. Blue began, his voice translator working overtime to maintain composure. It's internal. Tim nodded. Yes, like most Earth vertebrates. The doctor's crystalline surface rippled with shock. Most species evolved external protection. An internal support structure was rare enough, but combining it with soft external tissue. The vulnerability should have prevented their survival. As the examination continued, the impossibilities piled up. Humans had a single brain, yet it somehow managed complex tasks that most species needed specialized neural clusters to handle. They required regular periods of unconsciousness. They called it sleep, during which they were completely vulnerable. Their blood was iron-based, literally carrying metal through their bodies, and they needed to constantly intake oxygen, one of the most corrosive elements in existence. And your species reproduced successfully on a planet with such high gravity? Dr. Blue asked, checking the readings again, while walking upright. Tim laughed. Another peculiarity, this exhibition of emotion through facial movements and sounds. We did more than that. We became the dominant species. The medical community would never believe this. Dr. Blue had already received 14 messages calling his preliminary report a work of fiction. But here stood the proof. A living, breathing human, casually defying countless biological laws. One final question, Dr. Blue said, his crystalline form still flickering with disbelief. Your species' healing process. You're saying you can recover from most injuries without medical intervention? Well, yeah, Tim shrugged. Another uniquely human gesture. Cuts, breaks, bruises. The body usually fixes itself. It just takes time. Dr. Blue's assistant Mist condensed into a tight ball of anxiety. Self-repair was known in the galaxy, but at this level of complexity. In a species that already broke dozens of biological rules. As Tim left the laboratory, Dr. Blue began his official report to the Galactic Medical Council. How could he explain that humans weren't just another species, but a complete rewriting of what they thought possible in biological evolution? That these beings had survived and thrived while breaking nearly every rule of development they knew. He titled his report, Preliminary Analysis of Human Biology, a Study in Biological Impossibilities. It would be the first of many reports, each more unbelievable than the last. The galaxy's understanding of life was about to change forever, all because of these impossible humans. 2 weeks had passed since the first human examination, and Dr. Blue's laboratory had become the busiest place in the Galactic Medical Center. Today, he was observing something that made his crystalline form vibrate with excitement: a healing human bone. Jack, a construction worker from Earth, had broken his arm during the setup of the new human embassy. Instead of seeking advanced alien medical treatment, he had simply allowed the human doctors to set the bone and encase it in something they called a cast. Now, Dr. Blue watched the healing process through his advanced scanning equipment, barely believing the readings. "The bone is knitting itself back together," he explained to the gathering of alien medical professionals. His assistant Mist projected the scan results for everyone to see. Not only that, but the healed section will be stronger than the original bone. The assembled doctors erupted in disbelief. A gaseous being from the Surgical Council expanded rapidly, their species equivalent of shouting, "Impossible! No biological structure can become stronger after damage." Jack sat on the examination table, looking amused as the alien doctors argued. He raised his uninjured hand. "Actually, that's how human muscles work too. They get stronger after being damaged during exercise." The room fell silent. Dr. Blue's surface flickered rapidly as he processed this information. "You deliberately damage your muscles to make them stronger." "Well, kind of." Jack scratched his head. "When we exercise, tiny tears form in the muscle fibers. When they heal, the muscles become stronger and bigger. That's how we build strength." The medical professionals in the room began recording frantically. A liquid-based doctor nearly lost their form from shock. This went against everything they knew about tissue damage and repair. Dr. Blue brought up more scans, showing the microscopic process of human muscle repair. "Notice how their cells not only replace damaged tissue but improve upon it. The healing process isn't just recovery, it's enhancement." A crystalline doctor like Dr. Blue moved forward, their surface pulsing with confusion. "What about their skin? We've observed humans with previous damage marks." "You mean scars?" Jack rolled up his sleeve, showing a long-healed cut. "Yeah, sometimes the healing isn't perfect, but the new skin is usually stronger than before. Some scars can take impacts better than regular skin." Dr. Blue's assistant Mist swirled excitedly as they brought up more data. "We've also observed their immune system's response to pathogens. Once a human survives a disease, they become resistant or immune to it." The alien doctors crowded around the displays, watching recordings of human white blood cells attacking bacteria. The aggressive efficiency of the human immune system was frightening to species that relied on external protection or sterile environments. "And you're saying this healing happens naturally?" The gaseous doctor had condensed to half their normal size in shock. "Without medical intervention?" Jack nodded. "Most of the time, yeah. Unless it's something really serious. We just need time and maybe some basic first aid. Our bodies do the rest." Dr. Blue moved to his primary research terminal, adding to his growing file on human biological capabilities. "Their healing factor seems to be a result of their evolutionary history. Humans evolved as persistence predators, needing to recover quickly from injuries to continue hunting." The implications were staggering. A species that could not only heal most injuries independently, but emerge stronger from them. It explained how humans had survived on their death world of a planet, but it also raised concerning questions about their potential. As the other doctors filed out, still buzzing with discussion, Dr. Blue continued his observations. Jack's bone was healing slightly faster than standard human rates, possibly due to the higher oxygen content in the medical center's air. Another fascinating adaptation. Humans could heal more efficiently with just an increase in available oxygen. "Thank you for your patience, Jack," Dr. Blue said as the session ended. "Your species continues to surprise us." Jack grinned as he stood up. "Just wait until you guys learn about how we handle poison." Dr. Blue's surface rippled with interest, but that would have to wait for another day. For now, he had to update the Galactic Medical Council on his latest findings. Somehow, he had to explain that humans didn't just heal, they came back stronger. The galaxy wasn't ready for this information, but they needed to know. The Galactic Medical Center's cafeteria had been modified to include a human section, and that's where Dr. Blue found himself today, watching in horror as Tom, their newest human subject, consumed his morning coffee. "You're willingly drinking a toxic bean extract." Dr. Blue's crystalline form shimmered with distress. His assistant Mist hovered nearby, monitoring Tom's vital signs. "Every morning," Tom said, taking another sip. "Can't start my day without it. The caffeine helps wake me up." Dr. Blue's surface rippled as he recorded this information. The humans were drinking poison for its stimulant effects. Not only were they resistant to it, but they had also developed a dependency on it. The implications were fascinating and terrifying. Dr. Blue's surface flickered with what his species would consider a laugh. The Council would never believe that part. Let's save the alcohol discussion for next week's report. As he finished his documentation, a thought occurred to him. If humans could process such a wide range of toxic compounds, what else could they survive? Their adaptability seemed to have no limits. Each answer only led to more questions. On his main screen, he pulled up the next day's schedule. Tom had mentioned something called hot sauce tasting, and several brave medical students had volunteered to observe. The galaxy's understanding of toxicology was about to change dramatically, all because humans had decided that pain could be delicious. The night cycle had begun at the Galactic Medical Center, but Dr. Blue's research continued. His laboratory had been converted into a sleep study chamber, where a human named Pete lay peacefully on a monitoring bed. The room was filled with the soft hum of advanced scanning equipment, all focused on the unconscious human. They just shut down like this every day. A new doctor, made of pure energy, flickered nervously beside Dr. Blue. The concept of voluntary unconsciousness was deeply disturbing to energy-based life forms. For approximately one-third of their daily cycle, Dr. Blue confirmed, his crystalline surface pulsing with fascination. "They call it sleep. Watch the brain activity monitors." The screen showed waves of neural activity washing through Pete's brain. Despite being completely unresponsive to external stimuli, his mind was far from inactive. Mist, Dr. Blue's assistant, swirled excitedly as new data appeared. "The human has entered what they call REM sleep," Mist reported. "Observe the rapid eye movement and increased brain activity." The assembled doctors watched in amazement as Pete's brain lit up with activity, while his body remained paralyzed. This was the state humans called dreaming, a phenomenon that had captivated the galactic medical community since its discovery. "They process information during this state," Dr. Blue explained. "Their brains sort through memories, solve problems, and even simulate scenarios, all while being completely vulnerable to predators." A liquid-form doctor rippled with concern. How did they survive evolution with such a dangerous requirement? Most species that needed unconscious restoration periods went extinct on their worlds. Before Dr. Blue could answer, the monitoring equipment detected a change. Pete's brain waves shifted, and his body produced a surge of chemicals. On the screens, they could see him experiencing what humans called a nightmare. "Fascinating," Dr. Blue recorded. "Even in sleep, their threat response systems remain active. They can wake instantly if their dream state detects danger." The energy-based doctor moved closer to the displays. "And you're saying they can adapt their sleep patterns?" "Indeed." Dr. Blue brought up previous research data. Humans can alter their sleep cycles based on environmental needs. They can sleep less for short periods, split their sleep into multiple segments, or even continue partial function with minimal sleep. Pete shifted in his sleep, and several alien doctors backed away nervously. The idea of a conscious being regularly becoming unconscious was unsettling enough, but the fact that humans could modify this vital function seemed impossible. "Show them the memory consolidation data," Mist suggested, floating near the neural activity displays. Dr. Blue adjusted the screens to show how Pete's brain was strengthening neural pathways during sleep. Their brains use this time to enhance learning and physical skills. They actually get better at tasks by sleeping after practicing them. The medical team watched in silence as Pete's brain continued its mysterious work. Humans had evolved to be unconscious for hours at a time, yet they had turned this vulnerability into a strength. Their brains used this downtime to become more efficient, process emotions, and even solve complex problems. We once had a human researcher solve a complex mathematical equation in his sleep, Dr. Blue noted. He reported that the solution came to him in a dream. As the night cycle continued, more medical professionals arrived to observe. The human sleep cycle had become one of the most studied phenomena in the galaxy. How could a species survive while being unconscious for so long? How had they evolved such a complex restoration system? Pete stirred slightly, entering another sleep phase. The monitors showed his body conducting repairs, building proteins, and strengthening neural connections, all while being completely unaware of the dozen alien doctors studying his every breath. Add this to the impossible list, the energy-based doctor said, their form flickering with disbelief. They need to become regularly unconscious to function, yet they became a dominant species. Dr. Blue's surface rippled with what his species would consider a smile. Wait until you learn about their endurance capabilities. Humans don't just overcome their biological limitations, they turn them into advantages. As Pete continued his peaceful sleep, Dr. Blue updated his ongoing research logs. Every day, humans revealed new surprises. They had taken one of their greatest vulnerabilities, the need for sleep, and turned it into a sophisticated system for self-improvement. What other impossible features would they discover next? The research arena of the Galactic Medical Center had been converted into a running track for today's demonstration. Dr. Blue and a large group of alien scientists watched from the observation deck as Amy, a human marathon runner, prepared for her demonstration of human endurance capabilities. The temperature in the arena has been set to match Earth's equatorial conditions, Mist announced, hovering near the environmental controls. 35 degrees Celsius with 60% humidity. Most of the alien observers shifted uncomfortably. Such conditions were considered hostile to intelligent life, yet Amy stood below, looking completely at ease as she stretched. Today, we will observe how humans hunt, Dr. Blue announced to the gathered scientists. Not with advanced weapons or tools, but through pure physical endurance. The demonstration began. Amy started running at what seemed like a modest pace. The aliens watched, puzzled by the apparent lack of speed. Their confusion grew as she continued at the same steady pace, lap after lap. Notice the liquid appearing on her skin, Dr. Blue pointed out. This is their cooling mechanism, sweat. It allows them to regulate their body temperature while maintaining constant movement. A crystalline doctor raised a limb. But how long can she maintain this pace? Hours, Dr. Blue replied, causing a wave of disbelief through the audience. Humans are persistence hunters. They don't need to be faster than their prey. They just need to outlast them. On the track, Amy continued her steady run. The monitors showed her vital signs remaining stable, her unique bipedal gait conserving energy with each step. Her sweat glands worked efficiently, keeping her body temperature regulated despite the harsh conditions. Most prey animals can run faster than humans, Dr. Blue explained, but they must stop to cool down. Humans evolved the ability to cool themselves while moving. They would simply follow their prey until it collapsed from heat exhaustion. The alien scientists watched in growing amazement as Amy passed the 2-hour mark with no signs of stopping. Some had to leave and return, unable to maintain focus for such a long period. But the human kept running. Observe her muscle structure. Mist highlighted the scanning data. Their bipedal design allows for extremely efficient long-distance movement. Combined with their advanced cooling system, humans can cover vast distances on foot. A gaseous doctor expanded in surprise. Are you saying they hunted by simply walking their prey to death? Running, Dr. Blue corrected. And yes, human communities would track animals for days, taking turns following the prey until it could no longer continue. No other known species hunts this way. 3 hours into the demonstration, Amy finally stopped. She was sweating heavily but smiling, her breathing quick but controlled. The monitoring equipment showed her body already beginning its recovery process. "That was just a short run," she said, accepting a water bottle. "In a real marathon, we go for over 40 kilometers." The alien observers burst into excited discussion. The idea of voluntarily running such distances seemed impossible. Yet humans did it for sport, treating these feats of endurance as recreational activities. Later, in his laboratory, Dr. Blue reviewed the data with his team. The human cardiovascular system was unlike anything they had seen before. The combination of efficient bipedal movement, advanced temperature regulation, and remarkable endurance had made humans the perfect pursuit predators. Add this to their healing capabilities and poison resistance, Mist noted, and it explains much about their survival on Earth. Dr. Blue's surface flickered with agreement. Humans had evolved as the ultimate endurance hunters. They could track prey for days, heal from injuries along the way, and even process toxins that might have otherwise stopped them. Their bodies were built for persistence. "There's more," he added, pulling up new data. "They can adapt to almost any climate on their planet. From frozen tundra to burning deserts, humans have found ways to survive and thrive." The implications were staggering. A species that could outrun its prey, heal its wounds, resist poisons, and adapt to any environment. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. As Dr. Blue prepared his report for the medical council, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises humans would reveal. The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Medical Center as Dr. Blue and his team rushed to the accident site. A support beam had collapsed in the new construction area, trapping several workers. Among them was Bill, one of the human construction workers, who was now doing something that defied all biological logic. He was lifting the beam. Dr. Blue's sensors went wild as they recorded the event. The beam weighed more than 3 times what human muscles should be able to lift. Yet there stood Bill, his face red with effort, veins bulging, somehow keeping the massive beam raised just enough for others to pull his trapped colleagues to safety. "Impossible," whispered the energy-based doctor who had joined them. His muscle fibers should be tearing apart. But they weren't. The emergency medical team watched as Bill held the position for nearly 2 minutes, long enough for the rescue, before finally letting the beam drop. He immediately collapsed, his body shaking from the strain. Later, in the medical bay, Dr. Blue reviewed the readings with growing amazement. "Your strength exceeded all known human limitations," he told Bill, who lay recovering on a medical bed. "How did you do it?" "Adrenaline, I guess," Bill replied weakly. "When you need to save someone, you just do it." Dr. Blue's surface flickered with intense interest. The human stress hormone called adrenaline had been a subject of fascination since they'd first encountered humans. But this was different. This was something more. "It's called hysterical strength," Mist explained to the gathering of medical professionals. "Humans can temporarily exceed their physical limitations in times of extreme stress or emergency." The screen showed Bill's biological readings during the incident. His muscles had been operating far beyond their normal capacity. The amount of stress should have caused severe damage. Yet his body was already beginning its usual efficient healing process. Their emotions directly affect their physical capabilities, Dr. Blue noted, bringing up more data. Fear, love, anger, all can trigger biological responses that enhance their performance. A liquid form doctor rippled thoughtfully. "But the energy cost must be enormous. How do they survive such extreme outputs?" "That's the fascinating part," Dr. Blue replied. "Their bodies have evolved to handle these emotional surges. The same systems that let them process toxins and heal quickly also help them recover from these extraordinary efforts." More cases appeared on the screens: a mother lifting a vehicle to save her child, a teenager outrunning a predator, a person swimming for hours to reach safety. all examples of humans exceeding their normal physical limits when their emotions ran high. It's not just strength, Mist added, swirling excitedly. Their pain tolerance can increase, their reflexes can sharpen, their mental processing can accelerate. Their entire biology can temporarily transform under emotional stress. The medical team watched as Bill's body continued its recovery. His muscles should have been severely damaged, but the healing was progressing at the usual remarkable human rate. Even this extreme exertion would leave no lasting damage. Their emotional responses evolved as survival mechanisms, Dr. Blue explained to his colleagues. But instead of being limited by their emotions, humans learn to use them. They can channel their feelings into enhanced performance. A crystalline doctor raised an appendage. But surely this makes them unstable, unpredictable. Quite the opposite. Dr. Blue's surface rippled with what his species considered amusement. Humans have learned to control and direct their emotions. They can use them as tools, pushing their bodies to new limits when needed. In his private laboratory later that day, Dr. Blue added this new data to his growing research. Humans were emotional beings, yes, but their emotions weren't a weakness. They were another adaptation, another tool for survival. Their feelings could drive them beyond normal biological limits, and their bodies were designed to handle it. Add a note about their social bonds, Mist suggested. How their emotional connections to others often trigger these extraordinary responses. Dr. Blue agreed. The human's capacity for emotion wasn't just about individual survival. It was about protecting their group, helping others, preserving their social units. They had evolved to be stronger together, their biology responding to not just physical needs but emotional ones as well. As he finished his report, Dr. Blue wondered what other emotional capabilities humans might reveal. They had already shown that their feelings could let them exceed every physical limit they'd documented. What other impossible feats would their emotions drive them to achieve? The Grand Hall of the Galactic Medical Center was packed to capacity. 6 months had passed since first contact, and Dr. Blue stood once again at the podium, preparing to deliver his final comprehensive report on human biology. His crystalline form gleamed under the lights as he faced the largest gathering of medical professionals the galaxy had ever seen. Fellow beings, he began, his translator working to reach all species present. When humans first arrived, we called them impossible. We were wrong. They are not impossible. They are perfectly imperfect, and that is what makes them remarkable. The holographic displays around him came to life, showing scenes from the past months of research. Tim demonstrating human healing, Jack's bone growing stronger after breaking, Tom consuming his spicy foods, Pete sleeping peacefully, Amy running for hours, and Bill performing his feat of hysterical strength. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill them in countless ways. Dr. Blue continued. Instead of developing specialized defenses, they developed something far more valuable: adaptability. Mist floated nearby, changing the displays to show human survival in various environments. From the freezing poles to burning deserts, from mountain peaks to ocean depths, humans had found ways to live everywhere on their world. Their bodies are not perfectly suited to any environment, Dr. Blue explained, but they can survive in almost all of them. They heal quickly but not instantly. They are strong, but not the strongest. They are tough, but not invulnerable. Every seeming weakness is balanced by flexibility and adaptation. The screens showed human cellular structure, their remarkable ability to repair and improve themselves. They don't just heal injuries. They learn from them. They don't just resist toxins. They find ways to use them. They don't just endure. They thrive on challenge. A wave of murmurs passed through the audience as Dr. Blue brought up the emotional response data. Their very consciousness, which we initially saw as primitive due to its emotional nature, is a sophisticated survival tool. Their feelings don't cloud their judgment. They enhance their capabilities. The display shifted to show human brain activity. They need regular periods of unconsciousness, yes, but they use this time for mental processing and physical repair. What looked like vulnerability is actually an essential part of their advancement. Dr. Blue's surface rippled with excitement as he reached his key findings. Humans are not specialized survivors like most species. They are generalized survivors. They can adapt to almost any situation, learn from almost any challenge, and overcome almost any obstacle. Their biology isn't perfect for any single thing. It's adequate for almost everything. The audience watched in fascination as he brought up comparative data from hundreds of worlds. Most species evolve to fill a specific niche. Humans evolve to fill any niche. Their bodies are a compromise that allows them to do almost anything adequately rather than one thing perfectly. MIST projected new data showing human recovery rates, learning curves, and adaptation speeds. They can live in space, underwater, in frozen wastes or burning deserts. They can eat almost anything, survive most injuries, and push past normal biological limits when needed, all because they evolved not to be perfect, but to be adaptable. The displays showed humans working alongside various alien species, their bodies and minds adjusting to new situations with remarkable speed. They are not the fastest, strongest, or most durable species we have encountered, but they might be the most flexible, the most adaptable, and in many ways, the most remarkable. Dr. Blue's surface pulsed with what his species considered deep emotion. In pursuing our research into why human biology is so unbelievable, we discovered something profound. It is unbelievable precisely because it breaks our preconceptions about evolution and survival. Humans show us that being perfectly adapted to one thing is not always the best path. Sometimes, being adequately adapted to everything is a far better strategy. As he concluded his presentation, the gathered medical professionals burst into their species' various forms of appreciation. The implications of his research would reshape their understanding of biology and evolution. Humans had shown them that there was more than one path to survival and success in the galaxy. In the following days, as the Galactic Medical Council reviewed his findings, Dr. Blue made one final note in his research log. Humans are not biological impossibilities. They are living proof that the possible is far broader than we ever imagined. Their greatest strength is not in any single ability, but in their endless capacity to adapt, learn, and overcome. They are, in every sense, the ultimate adapters,